Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the church in Ocean Park. And I'm Dr. Kim Harris, and I get to be one of the people that occasionally even get to sing with the wonderful Louise Stops in person. We'll have to do that again. Glad you're here this morning. And on this morning, when we are celebrating, continuing to celebrate, we can put it that way, right? Women's History Month. I'm going to start off with a song that was written by Reverend Amy Carol Webb. She is a folk performer. She's also a Unitarian minister, and she is fantastic. And uh, this song is called I Come From Women. Mhm. Ooh. I come from women who gave up their power. Well, I come from women who gave up their name. And I come from women who know that nothing stays the same. Well, I come from women tender as roses. I come from women who are strong as stone. I come from women who know no one ever walks alone. Women of wisdom, women of tears, women who stood up and faced their fears. Women of struggle, oh, women not free, but women who pass the torch to me. Oh, I come from women who rock their babies. I come from women who face their fears. I come from women who guarded the fires from children's sake. I think I got to do that verse again. Here we go. Well, I come from women who rock their babies. I come from women who slept awake. I come from women who guarded the fires for children's sake. Mhm. I come from women who vowed to do better. Oh, I come from women tall and strong. I come from women who taught me I must always sing my song. Women of wisdom, women of tears, women who stood up and face their fears. Women of struggle, women not free, women who pass the torch to me. So daughters everywhere, raise your fires high, lift up your voices to the sky. Mothers and sisters of the earth, shout your name and claim your worth. I come from women, tall as, tender as roses and strong as stone. So we'll do that one again. Here we go. I come from women, tender as roses. I come from women, strong as stone. I come from women who taught me no one ever walks alone. So daughters everywhere, raise fires high, lift up your voices to the sky. Mothers and sisters from the earth, shout your name and claim your word. 'Cause you're women of wisdom, oh, you're women of tears, women who start up and face their fears, women of struggles sometimes, or women not free, but women who pass the torch to me. I come from women. Ooh, I come from women. Oh, sing it 2 more times, y'all. I come from women. Marvelous women. I come from women. Welcome to Church in Ocean Park.
All right. Good morning, church. My name is Trudy Goodwin, and I'm a member of the Church in Ocean Park. And I'm here to welcome you to this unique multi-faith community that is dedicated to social justice. You may be wondering if you're welcome here. Well, I've got a list. Let's go down this list and see if any of this applies to you. We are interfaith. So you're welcome if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're pagan, if you're Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Christian, atheist, or some combination, or if you don't want to identify with any particular faith group, you're welcome. You're welcome if you are single, married, divorced, gay, transgender, very rich, or living by day to day. We welcome those who are fidgety, who are focused, those that just woke up or just got out of prison. We don't care if you're more religious than the Pope or haven't been to church since your nephew's bar mitzvah. We welcome people of all ages and of all abilities. We welcome soccer moms, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegans, junk food eaters, social justice advocates. You are welcome here, or if you are in recovery or struggling with addiction. And if you're having problems or experience abundance, joy, or both, we welcome you if you like organized religion and if you don't. You are welcome if you work too hard, don't work, can't spell, or if you're here because you heard that this is a strange church and you want to check us out. You're welcome if you're inked, pierced, or both. We offer a special welcome to those who could use a prayer right now or have religion shoved down your throats as kids. You're welcome if you're a tourist, a seeker, or a doubter, or all of those. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Beautiful. Thank you, Trudy Goodwin. Thank you so much. And I also welcome you to the church. I'm Reverend Janet Gollery McKithen. This is a unique interreligious community. It's focused on helping to create a more equitable and sustainable world for all, and I welcome you as well. Last night was our annual Communitas event, and if you weren't there, it'll be posted on YouTube soon, but it was a fantastic time of celebrating people who make a difference in this community and beyond. We were reminded last night of the programs we had pre-COVID that have faded. During this Women's History Month, I want to highlight one program, Girls Central, which continued online for over a year with Hurley Gym Bowling. And those relationships continue, but the program is on hiatus until the ceiling is replaced. Girls Central is a program of support, education, empowerment, skill building, and community building for girls and young women. As we know, patriarchy is entrenched in our culture and causes systemic and deep harm. It's vital that we bring this program back, and you can help. During announcements, we'll talk more about this. We will hear today from an incredibly gifted friend and a courageous woman, Dr. Roslyn Satchel, who I wish all the members of Girls Central could get to know. Dr. Satchel is a part of our Church in Ocean Park family, and I will introduce her in a moment. But we want to begin by acknowledging that most of us right now are sitting on stolen land. In Santa Monica, the land was taken violently from the Chumash, the Quiche, and the Tongva peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, forced assimilation, enslavement, and destruction at the hands of US colonial settlerism. We also acknowledge that our communities and country was built on the backs of people who were stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. We acknowledge that we benefit from that labor that has never been repaid. In our acknowledgement, let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do things that we see as normal, but that are actually systemically hurting people. We all have biases, and it takes intentionality to build compassion for people whose lives are different from ours. We seek to work together across boundaries to tear down unjust systems and build new relationships of healing and love. This morning, you'll hear from a variety of people. If you hear something you disagree with, know that they do not speak for the Church in Ocean Park in its entirety. They do speak for themselves, and that your voice is just as important as whoever just spoke. Thank you for being a part of this community this morning, for breaking barriers, and for helping build more compassion in the world that we really, really need. Thank you for being a part of bending the arc toward justice. I get the pleasure of introducing our friend who probably needs no introduction for most of you, but Dr. Roslyn Satchel is the lead researcher for the Radau Institute for Social Equity, or RISE, and a professor in the School of Communication and Media. Dr. Satchel is a faculty associate at Harvard University's Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society, where she has co-led the Race Tech Media Working Group since her fellowship year. Teaching law, ethics, and communication courses, Dr. Satchel formerly served as an endowed tenured professor at Pepperdine University and an itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Her book, What Movies Teach About Race, Exceptionalism, Erasure, and Entitlement, brings Dr. Satchel's media, legal, and religion background together to examine political, economy, and representation in the most influential films of all time. She earned her degrees from Louisiana State, Emory, and Howard universities. Her scholarship scrutinizes the cultural intersections of legal, media, and religious discourse with a particular interest in issues of race, gender, class, ability, age, ethnicity, status, sexual orientation, religion, and citizenship. Prior to entering academia, Dr. Satchel was a successful policy advocate and pioneer in using citizen journalism and social media for community organizing. She developed educational resources and opportunities in academic, religious, and community settings in countries including Italy, Kenya, Thailand, Ghana, India, South Africa, and the US, in human rights, interfaith coalition building, child advocacy, and indigent defense. Her work influenced several national, state, and international grassroots initiatives, resulting in policy change, for which she received numerous awards and significant national media coverage. We know Dr. Roslyn as a part of our family, and and a part of Black Lives Matter Coalition as well. And so we welcome Dr. Roslyn Satchel.
Thank you, Pastor Janet. I appreciate you, my sister. Thank you so much for always thinking of me. I think it's been about annually, I've had the joy of being with my other church family. And you keep inviting me back, and that must mean something good, right?
Yeah, we love you.
So grateful, my sister, so grateful. And I want to thank Sister Louise Dobbs and Dr. Kim Harris. Oh, I love you all. This has been a joy to be able to continue our relationship and continue our work. no matter where we are, where we find ourselves. For the longest time, I was driving to Santa Monica from Malibu to be with some like-minded folks because we were just far too few in Malibu. And now look at me coming back from Atlanta to be with my church in Ocean Park family. I'm really grateful. I want to thank each and every one of you. It's such a pleasure to see so many familiar faces. I don't want to start calling names because I know I can't get through everybody, but I swear I'm sitting here looking at each and every one of your pictures, each and every one of your screens, your video, and you know I have memories to go with each and every one. Whether it was a conversation that we had immediately after church one Sunday, or if it's the Facebook connections and Instagram connections we've continued over the years. I'm grateful for you, each one of you. Please know how important you are. And I say that with all sincerity. This is not form or fashion. Know how important you are to me. This message today has been a struggle for me, I'll be honest. Reverend Janet asked me for my scripture and my title, and I was like, I think it's gonna be, but I'm not sure because God is working with me on some things that I'm not always comfortable with. I'm growing in some ways that are difficult for me sometimes. And as my political work becomes, I think, more targeted by the oppositions of by the enemies of justice and all those oppositional forces they bring with them, the more I go back to God and ask some questions and push and challenge, and I share my doubts and I share my struggles with God very, very, very transparently and authentically. And it provides a place for me to grow in relationship with God. And sometimes when we grow in relationship with God, we see ourselves pulling in different directions. And so, what I'm excited about is that the message today is not just for the women, though it is for.
Thank you.
It is not just for the folks who are used to hearing a message from me. It's actually challenging me. This message today challenges me more so than anything because it forces me to say and preach to myself as well as everyone else. The theme that I'm feeling led to explore today is better days are coming. Better days are coming. The scripture I'd like for us to just think about as I share and teach from this entire passage, I'm going to just share one verse that we can read together if you like, or you can just listen. But just keep your phones on mute, if you will, your screens on mute, because I'm easily distracted and it's important for me to stay focused, okay? I take very seriously the work of preaching. I had to tell my production assistant, also known as my son, who is 12 now, by the way, y'all. He's 12. Can you believe it? I know you remember when he was 3 and 4. He's 12 now. So anyway, Satchel was like, I'm talking, I'm playing games. So I was like, baby, I got to hear from God because God is actually leading this bus. I might make it look easy and it might appear to be just Roslyn, but it's not. It's actually Roslyn who has been sitting before God going, I don't know if I believe if better days are coming, God. I don't know that I believe that everything is going to be all right. And that is where we find ourselves in this preaching moment. Isaiah 54, verse 17 reads, "No weapon that is fashioned against you shall prosper." In the New Revised Standard Version, it says "and fashioned." You know, King James and all those other folks said formed. Some of us remember in King James language, but let's try a different one today. No weapon that is fashioned against you shall prosper, and you shall confute every tongue that rises against you in judgment. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their vindication from me, says the Lord. Let us pray. Loving Creator, source of our being, we are so very grateful for the opportunity to serve you and your purposes for us today. I ask that you would guide my feet while I run this race, that you would hold my hand and even move my mouth with the words that you would have me to say. Let the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, for you are the Lord. Ashe and amen. As a woman in the society that we've inherited, I often feel like people are disturbed by the fact that I will not subordinate myself to a lower estate. I know many of you feel similarly. In this world that we have inherited as a woman, I often struggle to see myself as powerful, capable, competent, intelligent, brilliant, beautiful. And my struggle, like many of you, is not so much because of something that is absolutely wrong inside of me, but instead it is something wrong with the systems and the structures and the institutions that condition us to believe that we are less than, that we are not good enough, that we do not have all that we need to survive and be well and thrive. I am not okay with that. I want little girls to grow up powerful, outspoken, unapologetically bold. I want little boys to love themselves enough to not need to put anyone else down. I want a world where I know that my gender, the way I've been socially conditioned to think about my sex, that my gender does not define me. I want for people to see a human being doing great work. I want the world to know how amazing and awesome we can be if we simply put ourselves, our faith, our actions, our work in alignment with the divine purpose for our lives. You see, I am still an idealist. who believes in her heart of hearts that we can make the world a better place. And I refuse to let those enemies of justice and equity delineate what our potential may be. I believe we can reach the stars. I believe we can do the miraculous. I believe that we could even see the invisible, feel the intangible, like the Clark singers used to sing. I want to believe that no weapon formed against us will prosper. But I see greedy governors doing dastardly deeds. I see campaigns and congressional representatives doing corruption in their own individual interests and not in the interests of the communities and constituents that they are supposed to serve. I see so many things around us that challenge my faith to its core. And I share all of this morning because I know that there is someone else on this call, on this Zoom, in this church congregation who feels similarly. You may be a man. You may be older than me or younger than me. You may be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, intersexual, or pansexual. You may be asexual or very, very, very sexual, like some of us will own being. But that is the part of this journey that we have to come to embrace as a part of our authenticity. What we learn in this part of the book of Isaiah is about a people who stood up in the midst of their problems, in the midst of their captivity, in the midst of Babylonian oppression. They are actually struggling to believe in a God who left them hanging, struggling to have a faith that doesn't seem absolutely founded on dreams and imaginings. They were recognizing that the people around them were looking at them and going, y'all still worshiping that God who has left you here in this awful condition? And somehow or another, we see through those first 39 chapters of Isaiah what is happening with the people of Israel as they are suffering. And then we see a shift in chapter 40. That shift in chapter 40 often is a reminder to us that God is still with us. I'll read a couple familiar verses for you so you'll see where I'm going. You might recall in Isaiah 40, 27, God actually is speaking to the people and saying, why do you say my way is hidden from the Lord? My right is disregarded by my God. He must be talking to somebody like me, somebody who's struggling in their faith. Maybe God, she is saying, have you not heard? Have you not known? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. God does not faint or grow weary. God's understanding is unsearchable. God gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall and be exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. These were the promises of God to a people who felt that they had been forsaken by God. I imagine that the wonderful adjectives that we like to assign to the people of Israel as rebellious and punished and stiff-necked and often captive, that these must upset our folks in the ancestral realm, because that's only a part of their story. They had been enslaved and subjugated and segregated and oppressed in the most awful ways. Oh, as a descendant of enslaved people, I can imagine what their journey was. I can imagine what their struggle must have been, believing these promises of God that are recorded in this book of Isaiah. And then we get deeper into the story, and we wonder, this mounting up on wings as eagles, is that really for me, or is that for someone else? But I would venture to say that these notions of eagles are something that we need to think about long and hard, because birds can teach us a whole lot if we sit with nature a little bit more, turn off the screens a little bit more. We will see the architect of it all at work within our surroundings, close to us. See, I remember in the scriptures that we learn about the people coming together in the temple to reaffirm their faith, to remember the traditions of their ancestors, to recognize and to come into touch with the power and presence of God, because times were hard, and it was hard to have hope in a hopeless situation. These people who had been talked about and scorned, who had been put down and rejected, had the audacity, in spite of what was happening around them, to proclaim themselves the people of God, God's chosen, the children, the beloved of God. Now, I know some of us have problems with even the language of godness, right? That this language is so limiting that there's really no way that we can talk about the infinite source of all of our being in 3 letters, right? That this idea is problematic for so many reasons, and we know out of which this notion of God comes. We know it comes from a very toxic, masculine, patriarchal, oppressive, sexist source. And so often we struggle and we try to find a different metaphor for talking about God. But I hope you will just indulge me today as a shorthand, that we're just going to use these 3 letters that we know don't at all encapsulate what we are really trying to talk about. We could call God by any number of names from any number of languages. languages and cultures, and it still wouldn't be enough, because somehow or another, God is still above and beyond. God is still throughout and inside of. God is all around us, and then yet and still that small voice, right, that is with us. Imagine the profound faith it takes to announce in a world where everybody's against you, a world in which you are the despised and rejected, a world in which you are the poor and the persecuted, a world in which you are the outsider and the outcast. You are the oppressed and the marginalized, the foreigner and the stranger. Your customs are reviled, your language is criticized, your rituals are not permitted, and your parents, your grandparents, your forebears were enslaved and tortured, maimed, and battered by these oppressors. But we're supposed to believe God is gonna show up, and that we're gonna mount up on wings as eagles. They believed, honey. They believed that they were the children of God. They believed that they were made in God's likeness. They believed that they were fearfully, or maybe fearlessly and wonderfully made in God's image. Oh, so often as women, we find ourselves pushed out and aside as trans folks, as gay folks, as non-Christian folks, whoever the majority is, the dominant culture who is exacting their revenge and trying to put forward their interests. That is an ongoing struggle for so many of us. But I like to remind myself, and today I remind you, with the words of a non-Christian, non-Jewish, non-Muslim woman, Nikki Giovanni. Every once in a while, I have to stand in the mirror and say to myself, in her words of ego tripping, I was born in the Congo. I walked the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert with a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes. I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle, so swift, so swift, so swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present when I was 3, I gave my son Hannibal. You've heard of him, an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah, yes, you know him. Noah built an ark and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intone my loving name. All praises, I am the one who would say. I sowed diamonds in my backyard My bowels deliver uranium. The feelings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels on a trip north, honey. I caught a cold, blew my nose, and ended up giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across the 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. Better days are coming, y'all. Better days. Sometimes we have to talk to ourselves. Sometimes we have to speak the power into ourselves. So as you contemplate what your poem is that you need to learn by heart and recite to yourself when you are doubting yourself and doubting your purpose and doubting the very creator who presented you to the world for a purpose. I want to talk a little bit about new eagles. New eagles, new eagles, new eagles when it's time to leave the nest. New eagles. See, I know many of us have seen pictures of huge eagles' nests high in the branches of a tree or in the crag of a cliff. Few of us have gotten a glimpse inside when the mother builds her nest. She starts with thorns. When the mother eagle builds her nest, she starts with broken branches. Oh, somebody knows where I'm going. When she builds her nest, she starts with sharp rocks. She starts with so many things that are entirely unsuitable for nurturing new life. But then she lines the nest with a thick padding of wool, with feathers and fur from animals that she's killed, making it soft and comfortable for the eggs. And by the time the growing birds reach flying age, the comfort of the nest and the luxury of getting free meals every day, it makes those baby eagles a little reluctant to leave the nest. But that's when the mother eagle begins stirring up the nest. Anybody hear about stirring up the nest? That's when her strong talons she uses to start picking up the thick carpet of fur and feathers. She begins bringing the sharp rocks and the branches to the surface. As more of the bedding gets plucked up, the nest becomes more uncomfortable for the young eagles. Eventually, this and other urgings prompt the growing eagles to leave once they're so uncomfortable in this once comfortable abode. But they move on and they learn how to fend for themselves. Some of us are like new eagles. Some of us are comfortable in the nest and we are scared to leave the nest because it's a mean world out there. But listen, y'all, to the folks who are the old eagles. The old eagles been through some things, right? They've seen some things, they've struggled with some things, they've beaten some obstacles and been able to cross some hurdles that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to. And periodically, after a certain number of years, an eagle will go off to some distant point by themselves. It will shed all of its old feathers and grow new feathers. This takes a significant period of time. The old claws die and the new claws will grow. When it leaves the secret place, it returns to its natural habitat, looking like a young eagle. And even though it is so many years old, this somehow renews them. It's a time for renewal for someone on this call. Something happens within us, and it's similar to what David wrote in Psalm 103. You know, God treats us like that. God meets our needs in such a fashion that our youth becomes renewed. Our youth becomes restored. And somehow or another, we're not so cynical anymore. Somehow or another, the idealism kicks back in, and we know we've got one more battle to fight, or maybe two, maybe three. Hey, who knows? Because I'm looking like a young eagle now, right? Some of us are like the old eagles. Life has beaten us down. Life has taken everything we had, our dreams, our health, our strength, our hope, our optimism. We've cried so many tears and suffered so much heartbreak that we can't seem to see straight anymore. Get away somewhere. Shed off those old feathers. Let your old claws fall away. Sharpen the new ones that come in their place, and be ready for new and interesting experiences. It's time for the old eagles to be renewed. Now we've got young eagles, we've got old eagles, and then there are what I like to call the crazy bald heads. The crazy bald heads. Yes, those of you who are familiar with the music of Bob Marley know about the crazy bald heads. It's important to put it all in context, right? We're talking about Babylonian captivity. We're talking about Babylon. We're talking about oppression. We're talking about dominance. We're talking about squashing and oppressing people. And we need these crazy bald heads. We need the crazy bald heads, y'all. See, I remember there's a lesson to the crazy bald heads. There was an old preacher who used to tell this story about an eagle that was captured when it was quite young. The farmer who snared the bird put a restraint on it. You know how they put those little shackles, shackles. You hear shackles? Put the shackles on the eagle. And they captured it, the farmer captured it and shackled it so it couldn't fly. And then he turned it loose after a period of time to roam in the barnyard. It wasn't long till the eagle began to act like the chickens, scratching and pecking at the ground. This bird that once soared high in the heavens seemed satisfied to live the barnyard life like a lowly hen. One day, the farmer was visited by a shepherd who lived in the mountains where the eagles lived. Seeing the eagle, the shepherd said to the farmer, "What a shame that bird hobbled here in your backyard. Why do you keep it hobbled here in your barnyard? Why don't you let it go?" The farmer agreed. So they cut off the restraint, they cut off the shackles, they removed the shackles, but the eagle continued to wander around, scratching and pecking, just as he did before. The shepherd picked it up and set it on a high stone wall. For the first time in months, the eagle saw the grand expanse of the blue sky and the glowing sun, and then it spread its wings and with a leap soared off into a tremendous spiral flight up higher, up higher, up higher. At last, it was acting like an eagle again. Some of us are like those crazy bald heads. You know who you are. Some of us need to remember who we are. You ain't no chicken. You've been held captive far too long. You've been in exile. You've been attacked. You've been locked up and locked down and locked out. But remember who you are. You are not a chicken. You are an eagle. And as an eagle, it is time for us to take flight. Baby, let's go. Let's go, because better days are coming. We may be attacked on every side, but we are not crushed. You are able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask, think, or imagine. Remember what Paul writes over in the Corinthians scriptures, those 2 books. He says we have this treasure in clay jars, that it might be made clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God, that it does not come from us, that we can be afflicted in every way, but never crushed. We may be perplexed, but we will never be driven to despair. We might be persecuted, but we are not forsaken. Struck down, maybe, but never destroyed. Oh, I still believe, y'all, that God's grace is sufficient, even in our weakness, even in our times when we can't see our way. I believe that God is there, and I believe that if we boast more about what we can do and complain less about what we can't do, we'll get to that point where we can say, eyes have not seen, nor ears heard, nor has it even entered into the hearts of people the things that God has prepared for those of us who love God and love God's people. I believe better days are coming. Let's go.
Dr. Satchel, I am so mesmerized by you, hanging on your every word. And I just wish we were in person, because I know how you're moving all of us, but you can't see it as well. And I just know that the Spirit is traveling all over the place, from where you are to where we are, and to Atlanta, and all over the place. So thank you so much. We are not a chicken, everyone. Just remember. So you're not a chicken, I'm not a chicken. So now is the time for community sharing. And so we'll ask Dr. Roslyn to have her unmute herself, just in case she wants to make a comment back to you. You can make a brief statement or ask a question, and she can respond if she feels like it. Okay. All right, Hannah. Good to see you, Hannah.
Hi, it was great. It was wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad I came. And I wonder, is it going to be like on YouTube? Do y'all put these
Yeah,
services on YouTube?
They're all on YouTube, and Louise is responsible for that. We give thanks for Louise.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful talk. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Trudy, your turn.
Oh my God, Sister Roslyn, you have me in tears over here.
Mama,
you know,
you got me in tears at the beginning, because you know how much I love you and Bob. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so happy to see you.
this is the message that I needed to hear right now, as I look at these crazy people in this country trying to destroy institutions that ain't never brought no harm to nobody, like Black sororities, Black fraternities, the education that sets people free from their ignorance about one another. I mean, I could go on and on about, the Nikki Giovanni poem, girl, I'm sitting here reciting it with you. I'm like, Oh my God, bringing back my college days. I just want to thank you so much, Roslyn, for being so real, so authentic, and letting the spirit move you. Because I realized that was a spirit filled message this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means the world.
Craig, Ali.
Brother Craig, Brother Craig, how you doing, Brother Craig? Good to see you.
Lord, I'm humble, sister. I'm humble. Anytime I'm in your presence, you give me the sense of communing with the ancestors, kings and queens, and all of us. And today is no different. I am thirsting, though, for just a little bit more in the way of invoking, which I know that spirit that allows us to fight, as you say, these bald heads, because they've seemed to have gotten a step up, and in ignorance, they want to paint us as something that they can't even define. They have no definition for woke, but they know we're it. One of them asked, a Supreme Court justice to define what a woman is. And so, we're dealing with this ignorance, and I'm wondering and I'm hoping that within that wisdom, we can invoke or, give us a sense of how we cope, because we've been fighting for quite some time, how we can invoke that can lift us off into a more competitive struggle type thing to where we can see some progress. I'm hoping I'm not making this that much more difficult, but I think it's necessary that, as young eagles, we engage and give them that sense that they can more or less tap in to that spirit that we had.
You always ask tough questions, Brother Craig. I appreciate it, though. I do.
I get it from you. Sorry, sister.
That's a good thing, right? Because I always teach my students, it's sometimes not about the answer, it's about the question you're asking. What is the right question for this moment, right? Like, what is the question? And we have to, I believe, be bold and courageous in questioning. By what power are you thinking that you have the authority to actually limit the opportunities of all other folks, right? And so that questioning is something we can't do from our comfortable places at home. It's not. The questioning, the type of challenge, the type of invocation that I hear you calling for is actually one that propels us, right? I remember often feeling really worn down and disillusioned and just being like, oh, forget it. I'm beating my head up against a brick wall. It doesn't make a difference. Nothing's changing. Things are getting worse. And I started going to y'all know about my Black Lives Matter work. So I started going and like just being in the room, not being Reverend Satchel, not being Dr. Satchel, just being Roslyn in the room with my jeans and my sweats and listening. And I listened so much that it started to like the fire inside of them started to ignite a fire inside of me. And then something changed, right? All of a sudden I wasn't disillusioned anymore. I was actually more hopeful. Like, this is what's real. right? This is what's really happening. It's not what we get on the CNN feed or from AP or from any of the news sources and news wires. This is real right here in the community, what we're doing, what we're building, what we're questioning, right? Like that we are able to, in many ways, invoke. By simply being together, we invoke the presence of God. We invoke the Spirit's ability to ignite something greater in a way that maybe even in our own human abilities, we're still limited, right? But I still see miracles happening. I still see miracles. I still see it. When I said that about feeling the intangible and seeing the invisible out of that Clark sister song, that is real for me. I think we have done ourselves a disservice by allowing these Western notions of logic and rationalization to take us out of what is real in terms of emotion and feeling and connection with spirit. I think that there's a whole nother realm that is at work. And so when we read those passages in Galatians about powers and principalities in Ephesians, and we go in and we think of it that way, and we put on that breastplate of righteousness, and we use those metaphors to mean something real. Because if these other enemies of justice will have their way with these condemnations of what you're right. I mean, I saw that interview as well where the woman couldn't define wokeness, but I mean, but they're using these talking points because they're fueling each other, right? They are fueling each other. They have the meetings. They can ignite the fire within the other people around them, and they get on message, and they have a unified approach to bringing down everything we stand for. But we're not doing that. Too many of us have too much to lose now, honestly, and it causes us to relent and back away. I was faced with a situation I won't even go into details on, but even on my job, in the work that I'm hired to do, having people try to straitjacket me and say, oh, but you can't do it that way. Oh, but you can't do it that loud. Oh, but you can't do it with those people. Oh, but you can't talk about it this way, because then you'll upset the people and then they'll attack us and come after us. I've never done what I do from a place of fear. If I did, I would never do anything. So I have to be around courageous, bold, thinking, strategic people. And I think that is the invocation that we need to keep the spirit moving inside of us. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, right? Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there the spirit is supposed to be in the midst too. I still believe those ancestral words. I still believe that we don't see everything that's happening. I'm still a mystic at heart, right? I'm a mystic. That means that I believe that there is something supernatural and there's something mystical. There's something else that happens. And if we just come together, that's something else, whether we call it Holy Spirit, Almighty God, Father, Mother, whatever y'all wants to call it, right? I mean, like it doesn't matter. This, I think, is our problem, is that we are so struggling to get it right. There's no right. There's no right. We can only do our best, and then we can learn how to do better next time. So I think that learning, that listening, that being together, that humbling ourselves, coming out of our degrees and our ordinations and our status symbols. I mean, these are things I've in many ways been encouraged in by the example of your pastor. I mean, Pastor Janet has been always out there in the protests with us. I mean, honestly, the first time I saw her, I was like, who is this little white lady out here? And why is she here? And what's going on? And she's got on the clerical collar. Y'all know I don't wear those things, right? So but she was representing, and she was committed, and she was there regularly and bringing folks. And those are the moments, I believe, that are the opportunities for us to be renewed. When we're feeling like those old eagles, it's the opportunity for us to realize we're not a chicken and become those crazy bald heads that actually do liberation work in the world instead of oppression work. You know, those are the things that our young eagles need to see, because otherwise they'll be terrified, because all they hear is, I mean, think about it. Even think about the way that we talk about the 60s, the 70s, the way we talk about the abolition era. It still puts the oppressor in far too much power.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate the question, Brother Craig. I'm doing my best to answer it, but I think
you did.
I think
you really did.
Thank you. Thank you. It is about connection. I really believe that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you so much for the compliment. Jean, and then Hurley Jim, and that will be the last two.
Oh,
hey Jean.
Reverend Roslyn. Oh my God. I was transfixed by your words today. And then just a couple of sentences ago, you said something about being straitjacketed, and it just rocketed this memory into my mind. I was brought up in a family where girls were not to do certain things. And, you know, my father got hiking boots and we got sneakers to go on the rocks, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And even in school, you know, I got the Math and Science Award, and my male teachers told me to be a secretary after high school. So I always thought, I kept thinking there's something's going to happen. Something's out there for me. And I did get a master's degree in engineering systems, and I went to work for a company where I was the only woman engineer. And I was like flying. I was, oh my God, this is so exciting. And I wrote a computer program. It took me a whole year, and I got to go on an airplane with my satchel. Satchel's a good word. With all my work in it. And I went to Lawrence Livermore Labs and I presented my program, and I came home and I was like, whoo, I am so powerful. And this is what happened afterwards. Speaking of straitjackets. So my boss says to me, hey, you have really earned being a manager of a project. And I said, that sounds terrific. Just tell me what to do. And somehow I never got to do anything. My name was on the board, Jean Gasket, manager, and the name of the project. And every time I said, so what's going, oh, you know what, don't worry your little head about it. We did that already. We wanted to help you out. And I never got to do anything important in that company again. And that was my wake-up call, that I had been really naive about the world, that it was waiting to lift me up because I did good work. And I want to come to the present now. You know, right after that, actually, I found every, emotional support, communication seminar I could find. And I learned how to say, I feel, I believe, I am. I learned how to do those things for myself because I didn't know how to do it before. I was acting as if, but I didn't know how to do it. And so coming further into the present, one of the things that is really cool is that I take Tai Chi. And Tai Chi has roots in martial arts.
Yes.
So that when you have a really good teacher and they teach you what's behind the little movements that look so tame, right? Is that you are protecting your face. you are looking up for your attacker coming down from here. You are turning around because you sense someone behind you. And so what's really cool about Tai Chi is that it teaches you that sometimes there are attackers around you and you are powerful enough to know that they're there and to protect yourself without being violent because you use their energy, right? They come at you and you step aside. So what I wanted to say about this is that there has to be a balance, because if you think all the time that there are attackers and that they're going to straitjacket you, then that's a pretty sad life. And so what I've been working on is the balance between being aware and being able to forestall the problems that come at me and being positive and knowing that the future has something bright coming. And it's really hard in the country right now. It's just so hard. So I cried through your talk today because it is so hard to look at what people are doing and the banned books and I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for 40 years, and to see what children are going through now, that they can't talk about their gay parents and they can't talk about being gay or transgender and all that stuff that I won't go into, but that the balance is so important. We all have to work on it, but that we have people like you to remind us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. Hurley, Jim, and then if and Edward, we'll go to Edward. Can you go on the screen, Edward? We'd like to see your face if you're going to talk. Oh, you're gone. Okay. First,
do face stuff, but it's all
I
right
think-
right now.
Are those
I'm in my PJs. So
what's
Is
that?
that Edward from Ghana?
no.
Oh, okay.
What did you say, Edward? Did you say
I'm
you're?
talking about PJs.
Oh, you're in your PJs. Okay. Hurley, Jim.
Okay, well, Dr. Roslyn, Doc Razzle Dazzle.
Tim, what's up, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. You always knock my socks off, even when I'm not wearing socks. You know, it's just, I love you so much. And there's so much I could respond to. Everything you said just filled a space in me, you know, but I'm going to try to keep it somewhat focused.
It's okay.
I guess, you know, one thing was that the eagle in the nest. I was on Friday, I was looking at a mama great horned owl and her baby in the nest. And so that I could really relate to that, because I kind of think of the great horned owl as the eagle of the night. You know, they rule the night. And I could see that, you know, the little chick there, really comfortable, really fuzzy, and the mom feeding it. Oh, everything is just dandy here. You know, this is great. But we know what's coming for that chick. The chick's going to have to do some real unfamiliar things. It's like, oh, I'm out of this nest. Oh, hey, what's happening? You know, and
Hey.
so yeah, I could really relate to that. You know, I actually read a book with that same theme about the eagle and the chicken to a group of first and second graders. And it's amazing, you know, when you started into that. I know this story, you know. And you know, the one thing about it was I asked, you know, the first and second graders, you know, well, is there anything wrong with being a chicken? And they thought about it for a moment. And then one of them said, not if you're a chicken. And that's true. You know, if you're a chicken, there's nothing wrong with being a chicken. But if you're an eagle, that's not the right thing for you to be. So I just want to say, kind of resonate something that Jean said about, she just mentioned banned books. I'm sure a lot of us, or maybe we don't, but some of us know that Teen Vogue Take is a great resource for countering the banned books issue and the information that is a threat basically to the oppressive system. And now there's Teen Vogue, but Teen Vogue Take. If you sign up for that newsletter, email newsletter, that will, give you some. I think Linda knows about this too. Linda Bond, she and I both are followers of that one. But I was reading something this morning on it about how girls are really the ones, and particularly girls of color, marginalized, are the ones that are the targets of these book bans. But in a way, all of us, it's affecting us in knowing, being kept from knowing what we need to do to make the world a better place, essentially, for everybody. And it's ironic because, it's being done in the name of protecting children. And it's doing anything but.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a lot of words, but.
No. I'm with you wholeheartedly. I appreciate it so much what you and Jean said, and honestly, it means a lot that other folks are outraged. It means a lot, because being a person who feels targeted is really a difficult place to be. It's often more, okay, great. It's often more tolerable when you have some solidarity with some friends. And knowing honestly that this wonderful group of folks who, I don't feel, often when I come to church in Ocean Park, I feel like I don't have to talk. It's like I don't have to explain to you blackness. I don't have to explain to you the politics of being Black in this world. I don't have to parse my language to ensure that I don't offend. I can be myself in this space in a way that I think a lot of people similarly positioned would not feel that way, right? Like that, it's not because they would know anything differently about you, but it's because when we're doing this work, often we don't see white allies with us, right? Like it is often more safe and comfortable for folks to sit at home and shake their heads. And we get that a lot. The thing about this congregation that excites me, and the reason I want to do everything I can to support you, is because it is actually what Linda put in the chat. It's that you are comrades, right? There's a difference between being a comrade and being an ally. And often this allyship that is being popularized and trendy doesn't have a whole lot of substance behind it. We need money, right? Just like y'all need money to fix the ceiling, we need money to keep the movement going. We need people who actually get it without having to have an explanation or class, right? I'm often doing very free education to just help sway public opinion, right? That I'm actually out here just talking with the hope that one person will get it and it will make them into a comrade in this work, fighting on the front lines, willing to sacrifice, willing to lose privilege, right? I've got a number of colleagues around me, honestly, their privilege and their entitlement, irrespective of their race, is being stripped away for just being in solidarity with Black scholars, critical race theory, Black Lives Matter movement, LGBTQIA concerns. I mean, we are in a very volatile stream of politics right now. And it's crucial for us to wake up, maybe go back to what we were doing in the 70s and 80s and before. Maybe it's time that we have a new way to do this work, and that new way to do this work involves people who otherwise might not be at the table. I'm willing to, even in a church, say that we've got to go back to what El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, formerly Malcolm X, said about the fact that we really do have this beautiful sisterhood and brotherhood where we can stand next to each other next to people who don't look like us, share a belief, share a commitment, share the work. And then we got to realize that when we go home, we got to take the work home. And we've got to help the people who look like us, talk like us, breathe like us, experience like us, reason like us, to understand the issues. It's not okay to go home for the holidays anymore and just act like it's okay for them to say that DeSantis is a really good guy. It's okay. It's not okay. He's not a really good guy. His actions speak for him. He's a bad person. He is doing awful things in the state of Florida as a model to forecast what he wants to do and what people like him want to do in the entire country. And if we sit back in California and in Georgia and go, dang, that's messed up for Florida, we're missing the point entirely. What happens in Florida, what is successful in any state, is going to show up on the national stage. And we will be back where we were in the 50s before long, because we are so comfortable sitting back and shaking our head and complaining. Now, I know that's not you, because I know y'all are out there and you're doing the work, but come on, y'all, I need some camaraderie in its most fundamental sense. We that are out here with our necks on the line, who are being attacked left and right, who are being straitjacketed, even though I hate the metaphor too, Jean. I don't want to feel that way. But when I walk into my workplace and can't actually do my work because I've got to be concerned about offending someone else, that's work that I need comrades, right? I need comrades who will go in and talk to the Board of Regents or the governor or whoever and say, I think we got this wrong. I think we gotta recalibrate. This is not the way we should go, because quite honestly, there are a lot of messages that you can convey so much more persuasively to particular target audiences than I can. They're going to turn it off as soon as they see me coming with my locks and my cowrie shells, right? They're going to totally shut down. But how movements actually succeed and make social progress is when everybody sees that there's a convergence of interests. Your interests are aligned with my interests. And if we do the work, we can actually make this world a better place. Still believing now, idealistically, still believing. So I feel you, Hurley Jim. I feel Jean. I am here in large part because I just love y'all radical folks at the church in Ocean Park. I love that you're still believing and you're still holding on and you are bringing folks together who otherwise would not ever come together, especially not in a worship experience. So grateful to you, so grateful to you. I chose the passage in Isaiah because largely it's a interfaith, multi-faith book, right? Like the Islamic scholars write about the teachings of Isaiah, even though the name is shifted, right? The of course Christian scholars try to claim everything that the Jewish scholars actually created in the Hebrew text, right? So we've got a book of scriptures that people can relate to from three different religious traditions that otherwise would be pitted against each other. That's the work, in my opinion, humbly. That's the work that God wants us to do. If we can come together around, these important ideas, I think we're going to find ourselves in such a better position.
Well, Dr. Satchel, I appreciate so much all your words, and we could listen to you we need your inspiration ongoing. I'm inspired in so many different ways. I'm the old ego and the young ego at different times, and I'm about to take some time off and go become a young ego one more time.
Yay!
So at any rate, I appreciate all that you said, and now we're going to hear from Dr. Kim.
Yes, and we're going to just move it right here. So everyone take a good stretch. Thank you so, so much. And we'll just sing words of Ella Baker. And she says, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black ones, black daughters and sons, is as important as the killing of the white ones, white daughters and sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Now, Ella Baker was thinking about the young people and how she wanted to move the next generations ahead. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. If I can shed some light, and they carry us through the gale. And she said, struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Sing one more time now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Beautiful. Dr. Kim, you're so amazing.
We give thanks for this community and all the joys and concerns that are there. And remember who you are and let's go. So turn off your mute button, and we will say together our traditional benediction, which is carry on, because that's what we're going to do together. And reach around the world, hold hands all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to wherever we are going. And we're going to say together, carry on. 1, 2, 3.
Carry on.
Carry on.